And as I watched that video, I could not help but get emotional. And to remember that time 12 years ago, 9/11, and the bravery and the heroes of those first responders who ran towards the buildings, and so many of them who perished trying to save so many other victims of terrorism on that day. You know, we should never forget that heroism. We must always hold up as heroes our first responders. I believe in them. I've led them for a long time. And I love them, each and every one of them. You know, I remember that day because I remember sitting in my conference room with the business community. And we were all working together trying to figure out a plan to rebuild downtown. And one of my assistants came in and gave me a note and said, "Something's going on in New York. We need you now." So I left this room of some 50 business leaders and people who own companies downtown and went to my office and saw the second plane hit the World Trade Center. And I went back out into the conference room and I said, "You need to go to your businesses, to your companies, and ask your employees, tell your employees that now is the time to be with their families and to go home." And I looked out the window and I already saw our police and fire working in our downtown trying to evacuate people, not knowing if we were next. And in fact, at some point during that morning, a communication came from one of our deputy chiefs that they believed that a plane was approaching Ohio airspace. And it was the only plane that had not grounded in the nation. And so we immediately got into action. And that plane turned around in midair and went to Pennsylvania where it crashed. I remember that day because that day changed the nation. That day changed me personally. That day made our country a better place, even in the face of tragedy. The city a better city, even in a time of stress and concern, and me a better person and a better man. Why is that? It's because we should not ever take for granted our freedoms. We should not ever take for granted our security. And we should never take for granted our first responders who are there each and every time for all of us. The next day, I remember going into the schools all over to the city, and children were crying, wondering if they were going to die too, because they saw the tragedy on TV at least 100 times during the day. They saw people jumping from the buildings. They saw people dying before their very eyes. It was a very tough day for our nation. But you know what? In times of crisis, that's when we come together. And that's when we come together in a way like we never have before. I don't want us to ever lose the spirit that we had of unity, that we had during that period of time after 9/11. We came together on the steps of City Hall, many of you can remember, where elected officials, civic leaders, religious leaders stood there, white, black, Republican, Democrat. It didn't matter, because we were all Americans. Muslims, Jews, everybody stood there together. And we said, we stand here tonight because we love our country and we're going to take care of each other. We need to maintain that spirit in our city and maintain that spirit in our country. We will always have this event in Columbus because in Columbus we will never forget what has been given to us. So I want to thank Rick for being the great man that he is and give you this proclamation on 9/11 for the 9/11 Remembrance Day.
Thank you, sir.